I am a note taker today, and I partner with Tracy.
Anna Deanna.
I'm Anna Deanna Johnson, and I'm an interested community member who joined this meeting because as a person who lives with disabilities and uses a mobility device, I figure it behooves me to be involved in forums such as this.
Welcome. Owen.
Owen Christofferson, he, him pronouns, committee chair, longtime Uber and Lyft driver, coming up on 10,000 rides.
Keenan.
Hey, Keenan Bro, he, him, longtime Uber driver. I've missed a couple meetings, so I apologize in advance if I need any help catching up. I looked over the materials, but yeah, maybe some.
Elizabeth.
Hi there, my name is Elizabeth Gallagher. I'm here on behalf of Lyft on the compliance team.
Mark.
Mark Williams, he, him, Bureau of Transportation.
Clayton.
Hi, everybody. It's Clayton Harris. I'm with Lyft, he, him.
Rachel.
Rachel Keller, Lyft driver, just passed a part-time Lyft driver, just passed 3,000. Right.
Chad.
Hi, I'm Chad Darrington. I'm the vice chair here, part-time Lyft, part-time Uber driver. I'm not up at 3,000.
Dave.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Benson. I work for the Portland Bureau of Transportation.
Sally.
Good afternoon, Sally LaJoy, she, hers pronouns, and I am part of the ombuds team. Hi, everybody.
Anna.
Sorry, Anna Richter Taylor, she, her pronouns. I am a representative for Uber, and I'm sorry, I have a very loud printer that I'm just going to go off mute. It just keeps going crazy.
Darren.
Hey, it's Darren Campbell. I'm the chairman of the Private Hire Transportation Advisory Committee and as well the Subcommittee on Fees and Fares. That's a joint committee with the TNC Driver Committee. And I'm also work for a radio cab company.
Carrie.
Hi, Carrie McCowan from the Port of Portland, grounds transportation, and I work near and close to April Murchison.
Kyle.
I'm Kyle Endert. I'm the parking and transportation manager for the Portland Trailblazers at the Rose Quarter.
April.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is August, but I'll stick with my name. Port of Portland Ground Transportation. Good to be here this afternoon.
Gabby.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I work with PBOT regulatory program. I do the customer service.
And there's one individual I can't see because of the closed captions there. If you haven't been called, there's one individual.
Looks like the
hey,
first
everybody. You might be talking about me. This is Ian Sargent, former full-time Uber and Lyft driver, current part-time driver, and full-time program manager at Ford. So glad to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Ian. I for a split second, I saw your name. All right, Owen, I will turn it over to you. Oh, well, let me turn it over to Mark.
So I get the pleasure to officially introduce our newest members and see Anna Deanna is one of them. Thank you for
Anna Deanna.
I blew it. You just said it and I already blew it. Anna Deanna.
Well, I should shorten it on here to Anna, but we just need the whole name.
I was like, I'm gonna get this right and I blew it already. Anna Deanna, thank you so much.
People pronounce more correctly if I have the whole thing. But however, they have named a queen after me. The movie Frozen. Her name.
Oh yeah. I have grandchildren, so I've seen that movie many times. It's a little snowman my grandson's like, whatever his name is. thank you for your time, and we appreciate you joining the committee. I'm looking forward to your comments and valuable input that you're going to bring to the table. I also want to officially welcome Guy Ocker to the committee, and I don't see Chris Meager in the room. That was going to be my final official welcome. So perhaps at the next meeting, I can officially welcome Chris. Thank you.
Mark, I don't see Guy either.
Oh, I thought I saw Guy earlier. Okay.
Nope.
Guy is one of the only members that actually serves on both committees. So we did officially welcome Guy to the Private for Hire Advisory Committee. So we will officially welcome him as well when we see him at the next meeting.
Owen?
All right, thanks, Mark and Tracy. Looks like the next item on our agenda is the approval of the June 13th, 2022 meeting summary. And I'm looking here on the agenda, I've got review action items. And I just want to make sure that I am getting this correctly here. Tracy, could you,
Owen, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I did not ask for announcements from committee members. So if we could do that, please. And Phil, thank you for raising your hand because that was my reminder.
Well, thank you, and sorry, Owen. I would just like to make a request of the committee chairs to consider going forward returning to the schedule of meetings that this committee had prior to COVID. I noticed as of the final draft meeting summary from January 13th, 2020, this committee was meeting on a monthly basis and each meeting was for 2 hours. So I think in an effort to be more productive and represent the drivers here to get things done, that we consider returning to that schedule.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. I have a question, Mark, for you. I know there had been some discussion of moving towards a system where we could potentially compensate committee members for their time. And I was just curious if there was any update to that, because I'm very intrigued by this idea that Phil is bringing forward. However, I want to also be, cognizant of the time that people are taking to volunteer to be here. And I'm also intrigued about the idea of potentially compensating committee members for their time.
Sure, thank you, Owen. I don't have an update at this time. I will make sure I follow up. I have someone follow up with the Office of Community and Civic Life. They are the ones that are responsible for the overall policy of advisory bodies. I know they were looking at that. I need to check in to see where they are. But as far as meeting, that's entirely up to you. The bylaws require us to meet, I believe, at least 6 times a year. I guess my only recommendation is for the committee that if we don't have enough information to meet every single month, I would ask the committee to consider not meeting, because I would consider that also to be a waste of time if we don't have any content to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Mark. All right. Any other announcements from committee members?
So, Owen, I have a clarification. So what are we doing with Phil's? He had 2 questions. One on compensation. Mark is going to follow up on that. The second is the meeting for once a month, 2 hours. Is it that you want to find out first whether or not committee members can be compensated and then come back to this question in the upcoming meeting?
Or can we vote on it now and make it official?
I would like to just take a little bit, before we vote on something like this, I'd like to take a little bit of time so that we could discuss it further. But this is absolutely an idea that I'm, willing to entertain. I think I'd like to see it as an agenda item. potentially we could have joint meetings as well between private for hire and TNC committees, and also include the folks on the benefits and compensation subcommittee. So I think there's a few different ways to structure this, and I'd like to have some further discussion in a more official capacity. How does that sound, Phil?
It sounds fair, although we can't really discuss things in groups of more than two offline, right?
Right. So what I'm
Phil,
saying.
yeah, we would wait till the next meeting, which would be in October, and have it as an agenda item for discussion.
That's 2 more months. It's like time's flying by. Can we not wait 2 more months?
Bill, I have to take time out of my day to do this. I have to take time off of work. I can't do every month. It's
So then maybe we need, different members of the committee who can spend more time.
So let me do this.
I think this is a thing to discuss at length, and I'm kind of surprised by it.
Okay, so why don't we do this in terms of process? It'll go on the agenda in October. And Phil, if you want to follow up with Owen or Chad individually, you're free to do that. But for now, you've raised the question. Owen said that he would entertain it, but let's have some discussion and it'll be an agenda item for October. All right, so turning it back over to you, Owen, for action items and Camarina. And one more area, Owen, Camarina, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we meet quorum.
All right.
Camarina, could you remind me what the action items were here?
Yes, I will share my screen. Oh, Tracy, can you allow me to share my screen? Okay, I hope people can see this. So our first action item from last meeting was that Anna Richard Taylor would share a digital record of Uber's response to action item 3 in regards to Uber's technological solutions. She did respond to Tracy and I with that digital response. The second action item was that Anna was going to follow up in writing about Uber's response to action item 7 from the previous meeting. In regards to per minute per mile, I did not get a response, although she was working on it.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we supposed to provide updates as you go through this or wait to the end?
Let me go through it and then we'll go back. Third action item, Philip Berger will submit a topic submission, which Phil did. Anna was going to inquire about the possible technical issues with the pins at the Port of Portland. Clayton Harris was going to inquire about Lyft's team if a 2-week notice would be more favorable. So Clayton did email a response to Tracy and Mark about the Lyft's response. Clayton and Anna were going to collaborate to bring a shared proposal. And in an email, Clayton shared that Lyft's response and shared that Anna was going to work on Uber's response. Owen was going to send some questions the committee had for Lyft to Clayton. I'm not sure if that happened. And then during the next agenda meeting, we were going to change the sequence of topics to address driver concerns earlier in the meeting, and that did happen during our agenda planning meeting. We can go back to action item 10. Do you have an update?
So yeah, and I guess my question that is related to Uber Eats, if I recall. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. That should be related to the forthcoming plan by Uber to switch to an upfront fare structure for TNC trips.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I got it confused with another issue that came up at one of the meetings. And so that's my bad. I was tracking down information that's why I wanted to get clarification in this meeting. And because we've been working on these other things, that's on me that I was confused and should have been more proactive in getting clarification. So I can follow up before the next meeting, certainly. And maybe we just can have
Are you clear about the issue? I know it's been a while since it came up.
Yeah, I think that if we could revisit it offline, which is one person, I don't need to waste everybody's time. I can get to the bottom of it, and I apologize that I got it conflated with another one. So
Owen, who will meet with Anna to clarify this action item so we can get Camarina can capture the names?
I can do that.
I mean, is it related to something never mind, we can follow up.
Yeah.
A letter that you submitted to the director.
Then going to action item 12, Anna, do you have an update on the technical issues with the pins at the Port of Portland?
I do not, but one of the things I was going to do is reach out to Philip to understand more about it. And then I saw his topic submission related to the airport. So I was hoping that would come, is that part of this larger issue? It's totally separate. Okay. Because also, anyway, yeah. So Philip, if you and I can have another conversation, I was trying to explain it to the Uber team based on your comments, and there was a lot more questions coming to me that I couldn't answer. So I think if possible, you and I could just talk later today or tomorrow or sometime this week, and then we can get answers to the larger group.
April, you have your hand up?
I do. So I'm not sure what questions were being asked, but what I read was with regard to us opening up an area so that the taxis and other vehicles could access a shortcut between the cell phone area, the staging, holding lot staging area to the airport, and vice versa.
So that's coming up later in the meeting. That's a topic submission. That's not what we're referring to in item 11.
Okay.
Or 12, I believe.
Thanks.
I think item 12 was about placing the pin for airport rides.
Okay, thank you.
And then also we skipped over my item, number
inside-
11. So I'd like
inside
to
the adverse
respond to that first.
Oh, yes. So Phil, I skipped over it because you completed the task. You submitted the topic submission that we're going to be
I'd like to comment that there was also notes in the minutes from the last meeting that there were changes being considered to the topic submission process. And I don't see that anywhere here on action items.
Well, feel that. Oh, go ahead, Camarina.
So later in the meeting, Mark is going to give an update about that. So yes, the topic submission form has been updated.
Okay.
We'll move on to action item 14. Anna, were you able to provide a response to the 30-day notice?
I'm sorry. I read that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that I was supposed to be providing a formal response. Uber's been okay with the 30-day notice. So I didn't think there was an issue, and I apologize for that.
So the action item was about whether or not it was more feasible for Lyft and Uber to have a 2-week notice versus a 30-day notice. And so the response was whether or not Uber had a preference over 2 weeks or 30 days.
On the revised, 30 days, I think, was the one that for section, for the terms of service notification requirements that you guys were talking about today and adopting. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the 30 days for section 2 was like Uber was fine with that. The item 3 and 4 are different. I mean, at the right time, I can share our perspective on that, but in terms of the notification requirements, the 30 days for the minimum rate and minimum mile, that's fine, 30 days.
And then Clayton and Owen, were you two able to connect and have all your questions answered, Clayton?
Yeah, and I apologize. I think I dropped the ball on this one. I wasn't I wasn't quite sure exactly if it was if there was a particular topic that we were discussing, if this was yeah, what exactly this was. So that's my bad, and I apologize. Cameron, you don't have any more information about this action item, do you?
My only recollection was that Clayton thought there might be some more questions the committee had, and you were connect with Clayton and make sure those were clarified and he could respond appropriately to other inquiries.
Got it. Yeah. Let's keep this as an action item. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I get in touch with all of the committee members to see if they have any questions, and then I will take it from there.
Okay, great. Thank you. I believe that's it for me.
And Cameron, I'm
Oh, yes.
sorry. I just want to make sure that, we did submit from what I understood. And if there are more questions, I definitely will follow up, Owen, when you get there. But for the record, that Lyft is on, or should be on the record, requesting that Section 2 be required to 15 days, not 30 days. I know that's a little bit different. From Uber, we had brief communications, and the communication basically was we would send ours and they would send theirs out. So I just want to make sure that for the record, that's where we are on there.
Great. Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you.
All right, glad we got through that. Sorry, I'm just pulling the agenda back up again. Now that we've reviewed the action items, let's go ahead and take a vote to approve the June 13th, 2022 meeting summary that was sent out by Tracy with the meeting documents for today's meeting. Does anybody have any changes they wish to make to the meeting summary? All right, and let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and call a vote for this. Can I get a second to approve the June 13th, 22 meeting summary?
Seconded.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right. All those against, please raise your hand. All right. The motion passes.
And actually, I'm abstaining because I was not part of the committee last month.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification.
And Chris Maher has joined us.
Aha. Maybe we could, yeah, do some introductions here. Where's Chris?
Is that Chris on the, oops. Is that Chris on the iPhone?
iPhone, yeah. And her last name is pronounced Maher. She and I are both on the Committee for Accessible Transportation together.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So
Chris-
sorry, I am so sorry that I didn't realize what time it is as I'm sitting out in a beautiful afternoon. I apologize.
No
so
problem.
You were out there relaxing, Chris, while we were all working hard here today. You were enjoying the weather out there.
Yes, I hate to tell you, and I wish I would have set a better alarm on my phone. So I am so truly deeply sorry that
Well, Chris, we just want to officially welcome you to the committee. We appreciate your time. So obviously we forgive you for spending a little extra time with some rest and relaxation. Thank you for being here. We are just excited that we have you on the committee here, and I can't wait to hear you comment and provide input on a number of topics we'll be talking about.
Perfect.
All right, it looks like next up we've got general updates from the technical advisory panel and public comments. And it looks like I have got a fees and fares subcommittee update. Chad, was that you? Oh,
Yes, as soon as I could find the unmute button. Yeah, I do have a little bit of just to share what's going on with fees and fares after the TNC advisory update.
Okay. Anybody from the technical advisory panel, any updates? All
I don't
right.
have any updates, but can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry. This
Sure.
relates to one of in the minutes from the last meeting,
Hmm.
Philip spoke as a Lyft driver, which I think is also why I got confused and wanted to follow up with him that this was on Uber to answer the question about the queue and the pen moving. Was that a typo in the summary, or is that something that?
Up until about a month ago, I was solely a Lyft driver. I've since started driving for Uber as well. So,
Okay.
So depending on which issue we're talking about, if it's the PIN issue at the airport, it may apply to both companies.
Okay, okay. Well, I'll follow up with you separately then, because that was another reason I was confused. It had to do with the Lyft driver then. So, and I'm with Uber, so I think that's where there was some confusion with me going back to Uber. They were understanding it. So I'll follow up with you. Okay, that's all I got. Sorry.
All right. All right. And just any public comments? All right. Chad, go ahead.
Hi. So on the fees and fares subcommittee, I'm glad Darren's here. We have 3 members on here, Darren, Phil, and myself. We are looking at redoing the city of Portland's kind of earnings survey for drivers. That's fair and equitable wages. We're also looking at some of the pricing lack of transparency that we're seeing from the TNC companies for drivers and passengers will be coming up. And there's a couple more things that we were talking about. We're also moving the fees and fares subcommittee to have more often meetings now that the pandemic is winding down and there's a lot more drivers and a lot more need to get things moving as there's a lot of changes going on in the industry.
Great.
Bill, did I have that cover most of it? That's all we got.
Great. Chad, a question. Do you have what's the kind of timeline for this survey?
I actually missed the last meeting, so I don't have a timeline for where we're at on it. I know that Phil and Darren were working diligently on it, and we've just got another email a couple of days ago with we need to review and get back to Phil with recommendations on a much shorter, condensed. Maybe we ask questions here and then come back and ask more questions from that. Now, here's 15 simple questions that you can go then ask more complex.
Okay. All right, I think that is it for topic number 4.
Mark, Peabody updates?
Okay. One item that's not on here, I wanted to respond to. Owen, you submitted a letter to myself and the director, and one of the topics in that letter, one of the items in that letter was to consider a minimum compensation for the city of Portland. I wanted you to know that the director has received your letter, and currently legal is doing some research on that matter. I learned a few things here last couple of weeks. There is an Oregon revised statute that may preempt us from doing that, and that is what we're researching. So hopefully here within the next few weeks, I'll have some sort of response for you. So I just wanted to bring that up. That item is not on the agenda today. LMS training for advisory committee members. So all of the members here in this room, and again, welcome to the new ones. There is a required training course that every advisory committee member has to complete. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll be rolling that out to all of you. You can take your time to complete that training. If you need to stop and go back to it, you're certainly able to do that. And certainly if you have any questions, myself and my staff will always be available to help you kind of navigate through the learning management system. But I just wanted to bring that up. You can expect to see that in the next couple of weeks. And Phil, yes, we have updated the topic submission form. So the form looks a little bit different, feels a little bit different, but more importantly, most important than anything is now you can upload file attachments. So if you have any images or any other material you'd like to include with the topic submission, the new form now allows you to do that. Thanks for bringing that up, Phil. We've had that technology in-house, and we just didn't think about using it until you brought it up. So we appreciate that. In fact, we've updated all of our forms so that they can now accept attachments. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Can I just ask a quick question regarding topic submissions in general? I submitted several and one has made it to the agenda. Will I get some sort of notification if the other two are in the queue to be discussed at a future meeting, or can I at least receive a decline notice?
You know what? We haven't done that in the past, but we can certainly incorporate something like that in the process. As you know, when those topics are submitted, they're reviewed by myself and the chair and the vice chair. Some topics that, for example, that we wouldn't consider are topics that maybe this committee doesn't even have any control of, or it's even outside of the regulatory jurisdiction. Believe it or not, we get topics submitted to us about, oh, you know what, we should put up more signs over in the area of Northwest and so. That's not something that this committee will do. And sometimes I will pass that on to the appropriate department. And trust me, I've seen more bizarre topic submissions than that. So obviously we won't be considering any of those items, but yes, we can certainly build that in the process, and I'll talk to Owen and Chad next time we meet.
All right. Next topic, topic number 6, revision to 30-day notification admin rule. So in the meeting materials, and I'm just pulling them up right now, there should be a draft of the latest revision. This has gone through quite a number. Oh, Mark, did you have a question?
When you finish, sir, I do one comment I'd like to bring up.
Sure. So if in case, you know, there's a lot of red and a lot of crossing out, but essentially what we have done is that we have taken out the part about notifications and of mandatory arbitration. So what I would like to do is have a time for discussion about the admin rule as it is written now, as was provided to the members. And then I would really love to call a vote on it. Essentially, aside from taking out item number 4, the only other changes, the changes that we have made are the under item number 3, when adjusting TNC driver terms of service, TNCs must inform the driver minimum of 15 days prior to the adjustment. And the TNCs must inform the driver a minimum of 30 days prior to the rate adjustment when adjusting minimum financial compensation. In other words, the TNCs have 15 days for, any, procedural unrelated to fare adjustments, and 30 days when the adjustment does concern the fare structure. Anna Diana, do you have a question?
Actually, I wanted everyone to make note of the fact that our new member, Chris, has low vision issues and would like to make sure that any materials which are shared or shared on the screen are accessible and or people read through what's up on the screen and don't make the assumption that everyone can see it. Because I know that dear Chris is not in a position where she can. And so I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Chris? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, is there any way that I can get that and I can use either my BART or I can use voiceover or whatnot, if I can get it that way, or send it to me and I can use my CCTV if that's possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like me to do that right now? Yeah, I can. The easiest here.
I'm trying to follow and I was trying to think, did I get this information? I couldn't recall. So okay.
Chris, this is Tracy, the facilitator. I send out the meeting documents in two formats. One is the meeting invite, and then I send an email to the committee with the meeting documents. If those two ways don't work for you, please let me know, and we can discuss whatever works best for you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think I can maneuver through that as needed now that I know that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Owen, before we open up, Mark had a question or comment. Mark?
Yeah, just thank you, Tracy. Just a couple of comments. And also I wanted to extend out to Chris that, I mean, anytime you have questions about something that you're seeing or that I can't remember, you have a screen reader, if it's not sounding right to you, call us, okay? We can certainly kind of summarize what you're trying to review there for you. So I invite you to do that. So don't hesitate. So I want to make a couple of opening comments about this particular topic submission. I have reformatted this into an administrative rule. This is kind of what an administrative rule would look like before the director would sign it. Anything that we approve here or recommend, especially when it's an administrative rule, does go through a legal review process, okay? So it means it goes through the attorneys and they look at it and they find out that, if whatever we're recommending, is it even legal? And if it is, they'll send it off to the director, we'll forward it off to the director, and then they can decide if they want to approve it or not. So this will go through that as well. I bring this up because there seems to be a lot of areas around just the terms of service that, quite frankly, I find very confusing. And so currently we have and let me back up a little bit. This particular topic has evolved since we first discussed it. This really started about a conversation around compensation and the drivers wanting to know that anytime compensation changed, we want to know about it. I think it's a very fair request. If the rates are changing, let us know in advance. And then it kind of evolved into other changes in the terms of service. And then it kind of evolved into a conversation about binding arbitration. So as you stated at the beginning, Owen, we've pulled out binding arbitration. That is not off the table for the record. That's just going to be submitted as a separate item. Our city attorney is currently looking at all of the language around arbitration for Uber and Lyft, and they're going to get back to us with some comments, okay? And the reason the city attorney is involved is because I'm not an attorney, and neither is Owen and neither is Chad. So we certainly want to make sure that they understand some of the policy recommendations that they're putting forward. The next item, or the next part of that that's still in the recommendation today, I would strongly suggest that the committee reconsider it for now. I'm sure you're going to hear from both Uber and Lyft about section number 3. Again, around the terms of service and the many changes that can take place and notifications for that matter. And I'll let them kind of speak for themselves, but I've heard a lot about that. My recommendation for the committee is to consider items number 1 and 2, move those forward and introduce number 3 along with number 4 when we get ready to continue the discussion around that topic.
All right, I'm just pulling this document back up here. You're referring to number 3 on the second page under notification requirements?
Correct.
All right. And let's see. First of all, do any members of the committee have do any of the members of the committee have any comments on this as it has been presented right now? Chad?
Yes, thank you very much. So I think that we keep it in. It still has to go to the city attorney to be approved. It's not moving forward, but this has got to this point and stalled since I've been on the committee a very short time, 3 times. It's got up here, we voted to move forward, and it's stalled. So I believe that as it stands right now, dropping off the part about forced arbitration is fine because we're going to bring that up at a separate topic. But I think we should just vote on this as it stands right now.
I do apologize. Why was that section omitted?
Sorry, Keenan, which section?
The section 4 on the arbitration.
I believe, and Mark could probably answer this better, but I believe it had to do with lack of clarification around if this was possible legally, and what the kind of, what the legal framework was around us being able to do that.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, Chad, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I think it's made it this far, and we've got a draft in front of us right now. And I would like to take a vote on it. Any other committee members have any comments on this? All right. I think in that case, I would like to go ahead and call for a motion to vote on this admin rule. This is sections 1, 2, and 3 of the edits of the rule. Yeah, Mr. Harris, Clayton.
Hey, Owen, will you be taking any comments before the vote?
Yeah.
It's somewhat difficult somewhat of a process question. Members from
So Owen, let me clarify, we have to take public comment on an action item. So if committee members don't have comments, let's move to public comment and then you can move to a vote.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and move to public comment.
Clayton, did you have a comment?
If that's okay, and I'll try. Okay, thank you. And as you all know, just so we're clear, I represent LIFT. I'm the Government Relations Director for the Central and Western United States. So I appreciate you allowing me to speak. And I understand that this has been on the agenda for a while and that we're trying to work through some issues. So the first comment that I have, and I'll try to keep this down unless there's some questions back, Owen, if that's okay with you. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, apologize, familiarity. So what I would say specifically is that I absolutely would agree with Mr. Williams from our point of view that there's some confusion on where we are with these items in there, and by separating them out, it might make it easier to address, if not all of them, at least specific ones without there being a blanket objection to all of them. I think with the adjustments to minimum financial compensation and then the requirement as stated, I understand, and Uber can definitely speak to their point of view. Our point of view is that the 15-day notice for any adjustment to driver pay rates would be where we would support. But now as you start talking and we move into the terms of service, we have a lot of issues with this. So we would not be in favor of any of the days, especially if at a very, very minimum, it was out of line of the other minimum financial compensation terms when you talk about notification being 15 days as opposed to 30 days. But the objections to the proposed language. So now talking specifically about section 3, which would require the TNCs to provide a minimum of 15 days notice prior to any adjustment to the driver terms of service. Our biggest issue on this is that it's overbroad. So any terms, there can be terms of services that change that don't affect drivers at all. There can be terms of services that change that don't affect Portland or Oregon at all. And implementing this at this point in time puts an undue burden on things that we may do in New York City or in Myrtle Beach or in Chicago that have no relevance or impact whatsoever to drivers in this market. And because of that, we really think that it's overbroad. There are other terms of or provisions that also make it a little untenable. So for us, because this will be one market putting limitations on things we could do across the United States. I mean, we have examples, on things that might happen with riders or micro mobility that we deal with as well, where we have changes in services, terms and service change that have no bearing on drivers. I can keep it at that at this moment. I certainly want to address any questions, comments, concerns, and I know Uber can absolutely speak for themselves, but I think there may be some similarities in there. So I appreciate you allowing me to start this conversation. And like I said, I'll answer any questions to the best of my ability.
All right, Anna.
Hi. So we're good with 1 and 2, and we've been talking about this for a year, and we were good with it a year ago, and we're still good with it now. Sorry, we support it. But we also would rather see the terms of service agreement conversation happen separately so that we can have more clarity. That's just very broad, much of what Lyft has shared. And we want to sit at the table and have attorneys talk this through so that we can make sure that we're all clear on what the objective is, and that it's something that could be operationally, meet your goals and can be operationally feasible for the company. So that's our hope, and understanding that you may go ahead and vote today on this as it stands. I just don't want there to be surprises, that we'll also be following up with a letter to the director in hopes that we can have attorneys talk through this with potential modifications.
Thank you, Anna. Sorry, I couldn't tell if Chad or Rachel was first.
Chad was first, Owen.
Okay.
Chad, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harrison, Anna, Richter Taylor, thank you very much. With regards to what Mr. Harris said about this affecting the rest of the country, that doesn't really matter for this board or this committee. We're only talking about the terms of service that apply to drivers. I don't see in the terms of service when I can find them for Uber and Lyft, which is very difficult to do, where it specifies, they've got terms of service for the state of Washington that says that we have to agree that we're not going to hurt ourselves while driving. So it's very easy for the companies to come up with different terms and services for different areas. And if the city of Portland decides to put in Section 3 completely as it stands, you can just have a set of rules and regulations for Portland modified from the existing set. So if you make a change in Chicago, that does not affect what happens in Portland, and that is my opinion. And I also would say that I don't think what we do in the committee makes this law. It doesn't become city code. It has to go through an attorney to be approved. It has to be approved by the director. And what we say, while disheartening, could be completely shot down by the director and the Portland Bureau of Transportation, because it's untenable. And so I think that we move forward with it as it stands, even with these adjustments, or not adjustments, that's the wrong word, with these counterpoints that Uber and Lyft have brought up, can be further discussed, but I think we need to move forward with this as our recommendation to the chair, or to the, yeah.
Thank you, Chad. Rachel?
I have mixed feelings. I'm newish to this, and so I agree with Chad in the sense that this probably needs to move forward, but that number 3 worries me too. I also have an acquaintance who works with Lyft, and I have spoken with her at length during lunches about this. And it seems like a dangerous place to be if you're going to put something in writing that says something that broad. And then somebody says, hey, you didn't notify me. It seems like dangerous ground. if it didn't had the word Portland or the word Portland Metro, or, you know, it makes sense to change the language a little bit so that it just includes our area. I agree with what Uber and Lyft representatives, as the public comment said. So that's my 2 cents. I know that it's harsh to keep this hanging on any longer, but as a compliance officer for a nonprofit, language can really make a difference. Somebody can go in there and grab that and hold on to it. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right. Clayton, yeah, if you just have a short comment, and just, yeah, appreciate.
It's just response, just for clarification and for the record, we only have one terms of service for users across the platform. So there isn't a cutout for Portland, and I would say that the concern is making sure that we are in compliance in the market. So if something's in Portland, even though it's not in the terms of services anywhere else, but it affects that, we don't want to be out of compliance in Portland just because we're in compliance with every other market. So.
All right. Any other comments?
Would it be possible to make some very small edits to say, hey, this applies specifically to the Portland or Oregon market or something, and have a session devoted to voting on this less than 2 months from now?
Might be a question for Mark. I'm not sure.
Mark, you're on mute.
I mean, this committee can make revisions to a recommendation. That's what this conversation is really all about, hearing public comment and the committee deciding what they want to do. If we come back to the meeting, let's say a month, you decide you want to have a meeting in 30 days with some revised language and maybe a little further discussion with both Uber and Lyft about the language. We come back, we take public comment, we hear all the public and the stakeholders again, and then you can take action at the next meeting. What I was hearing, even prior to the meeting, is that we're all in the same place for items 1 and 2. And that's something that I thought that the committee members wanted. We want to know when there's going to be changes to our compensation. So my recommendation was, let's just get this one across the finish line, because everyone agrees with the first 2. Clearly, number 3 and number 4 is going to require some additional discussion. So again, my recommendation is go with what we agree with everybody in this room seems to be on the same page with, and we're gonna be talking about 3 and 4 again, regardless of what you do today.
Chad?
Yeah, Mark, this is more of a procedure. So can we vote on 1 and 2, even though we don't have a piece of digital paper with 3 scratched out for now? Can we vote on this and say we're moving forward with points 1 and 2 and have this document amended again, but without us having to vote on it, that umpteenth amendment? I think we're on version 14. So version 15 goes straight to the director.
Right.
Straight to legal.
Sure. Right. So I think that if the committee decides to drop 3, I think the committee proposes that to this group, take any public comment on the revisions of dropping 3, and then take action.
Mark, what about item 4?
Item 4 has already been.
Oh, that's
decided.
crossed out. Okay.
That's crossed out. And what I would suggest is that item 3 and 4 become their own topic, so that, because they're really about the same thing, so to speak. They're about the terms of service. Well, arbitration language is a little bit different. Legal's already looking into that, but it really is about these revisions to the terms of service and arbitration. But if we can get compensation across the finish line, I think there's some good there.
So Mark, I just want to summarize. We would be voting on approving under notification requirements, items 1 and 2. 3 and 4 would be looked at as separate topics. at a later date.
Correct, correct. Because we have legal actively looking into that right now. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation depending on, how many conversations we have to have with Lyft's legal team and, the city of Portland's legal team. So my suggestion is that you make a motion to revise this administrative rule to drop section 3, second it, take public comment, and then take action.
All right. Thanks for that, Mark. I appreciate it. What I think I'm going to do instead is call for a vote with sections 1, 2, and 3. And if that fails, we will take it from there. So could I have a motion to approve the admin rule as it is now in the draft with sections 1, 2, and 3 of the notification requirements? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, all those against, please raise your hand. All right, looks like that motion fails. Why don't we just take a vote on items number 1 and 2 then? So could I get a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the admin notification rule with only notification requirements 1 and 2 and not notification requirement number 3. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, all those against, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes.
Can I say I still want 1, 2, and 3 in there, but it's trying to be diplomatic and.
Of course.
I want them in there too. I just don't agree with the language. But I think it's a good policy. I just worry about what the language. I agree with the rideshare company.
All right, so Owen, I want to go through a real quick process, a decision here for you to make. The ombuds report was scheduled at 4:10. It is now 4:30, and then we still have 2 topic submissions. So how do you want to handle and adjust this last half hour?
Let's see.
Oh, and can we ask Sally very quick? Do we have any updates?
Sally was going to give us a 10-minute report. Is that correct, Sally?
Yeah, but I was just trying to remember how to raise my hand in here. I can do it even less. If you want me to, I could do it in 5 minutes and just give you a real quick snapshot. It's up to you. Or we can pass and you can review the report. There's a couple changes to it, but they're pretty minor.
Chad, would it be at all possible for you to combine the topic on driver protections and safety tools for drivers?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have Sally's report and then let's do Phil's topic on the shortcut from PDX to rideshare area, and let's end with and was that all? Were there? Yes. And then let's end with both of those safety related topics from Chad.
And so, Owen, I just want to remind the committee on these last items, with the exception of the onboards report, the discussion is whether or not we would move these items to an action item. So again, it's discussion on whether or not to move the item to an action item. It requires a quick summary, just high level comments. And if the committee wants to move it to the next meeting, we vote. So yeah. All right, Sally. Sally, thank you for adjusting your time.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. So try to go 5 minutes. Is that what we've got? Okay. Okay. So hi, everybody. You all saw the report. It was attached to the materials that Tracy and Camarina sent out. Just kind of quick overview. We've had a slight uptick in complaints. If you've watched, they went from, at certain points, we were up into the 20s and then it dropped down to sometimes 1. Now we're up to 9, which doesn't sound significant, but it's an uptick. In the last year, it had really dropped during COVID and the post-COVID lag in all things, Portland and tourism related. So there were 2 additional complaints filed since the report. So there were 9 total. all but one were for a deactivation. So, and the last one is still in that range. It's just a person who's suspended, deactivated, suspended, and now they're active. So they filed a complaint about that sort of back and forth activity. One was closed and the others remain open. There are a couple where the, materials were sent to the TNC for them to look at it, by TNC, Uber and Lyft. There are a couple where we need to get more information from the drivers. The two most recent complaints, we don't actually have, they were both from the same person. So one against Uber and one against Lyft, which is why we have 9 complaints from 7 drivers. Every so often somebody files one against each company. They'll be deactivated by both. So the new one is, again, there's one with Uber and one with Lyft, and we're waiting for more information from that driver. One of the interesting things that happened is one driver, sometimes they don't know what they're actually being deactivated for. That's what they communicate to us. And so as we get more information, it becomes a different process than we think. So one person thought they were being deactivated because of their car color, and then it turned out to be about inappropriate comments. And so we're asking for more information on that one from the TNC. One person thought it was about the car color in both complaints, Uber and Lyft. And then it turned out it wasn't the car color. The company believed the person was actually switching cars and not driving with the appropriate car that they had registered. So it's identification of the automobile, but in a completely different version. One we closed because the person asked if they had low rider report ratings, and then they asked if they could take the 7x7 course, and they already had in the past. And so that was one important thing, I think, that for the committee and anybody from the public to know, is that if someone has already taken that course to improve their ratings, they're not allowed per company policy to take it a second time. So it's an opportunity to sort of neutralize their history and move on, but they don't have that as a second option. So, and that's something important for us to know, that we don't suggest to drivers that they do that, or even, bring it up to the company. I think those are the main things I wanted to let you know. Other than things where they were declined to be reactivated, we have not closed those because we are hoping to get more information from the companies. There is the Drivers Advisory Committee's recommendation that's working through the process to have more joint cooperation with the Ombuds program. So we are holding those complaints open, pending hopefully additional information. And I don't know, Mark, if you want to give updates on your end on that, but that's my report. Most of it's in the document, and then these are just sort of the add-ons. If you have questions, let me know.
Mr. Chair, I'd be more than happy to update.
Sure, Mark. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, so that particular administrative rule, which would require the TNCs to kind of cooperate in these types of investigations, it has cleared the legal review process. It is now being queued to go through the approval process through the director. I don't see the director really denying this particular request. And once it is approved by the director, it just goes through the recording process at the auditor's office. And then at that point, it becomes law. So I think we're looking at about another week, maybe a week and a half at the most. I know the director's out of town right now on vacation, so I don't expect him to see it until sometime next week.
Great.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions for Sally? All right. Well, thank you so much for going much shorter than the time that you had, running very behind today. And let's go ahead and move on to Phil's topic submission, shortcut from PDX to rideshare area via air cargo road closed. So Phil, if you just want to give a little summary of the issue for us, and then we can open the floor for discussion.
Sure. So very briefly, has everybody had a chance to read the topic submission? Maybe just show your hand. Okay. So in a nutshell, there was an existing shortcut as soon as you exit the airport pickup or drop off area along Air Cargo Road that went through a slightly businessy area to where the old cell phone waiting area used to be, to get to the current Lyft, Uber, and taxi staging area. And it was a shortcut, so you wouldn't have to go all the way straight on Airport Way to the light and make a right. And a little bit before July 5th, when I filled out the topic submission, all of a sudden one day it was just closed. There was cement blocks preventing drivers from getting through. And my request is very simple, two things. Number one, reopen it, or number two, in the future, when the appropriate department or committee are making these decisions that affect thousands and thousands of drivers, as well as traffic flow for the general public, that perhaps at least it would make sense to get input from drivers.
Rachel?
Thank you. I agree on both. I would love to have it open again, but I understand if there's some reason why it can't be. We see local access only all the time, and we can't. But if there's something that the airport, or if there's something that the Bureau of Transportation, or there's some traffic control issue that can be relayed to us in a notification, that would be amazing. I think that would be great. And input about it beforehand would also be amazing, because sometimes we can have some suggestions or, rally some ideas. So that, yeah, I agree that it would be nice to, because that was kind of, that threw me for a little bit of a loop. It didn't kill me, but I do a lot of airport drives, and I do go that way a lot. Thank you.
On Deanna?
Okay, I know that TriMet is in the process of starting to put in this second rail for the red line to go to the airport. I'm not exactly sure of the route that you guys are talking about, but I know that between Gateway and the airport is going to be majorly disrupted because of putting in a second rail for the tram, or for the MAX.
All right, April.
Thank you. Allow me to extend my apology for jumping in earlier and in the wrong space. This particular project started a few months ago. It's called the TriMet, a Better Red Double Track and PDX Bicycle Pedestrian Path. It wasn't intended for the construction to occur for this long amount of time. But the most recent updates is that they're continuing to do some things between August 8th and August 13th, and it will still be closed. I don't have an actual date as to how long right now, but I will get more information. One of the things about the airport, and you all are probably clear on this, those who sign any type of contract with the airport, especially with our ground transportation providers, they are under the understanding that construction is inevitable, and that we do have a right to, expand, repair, move things around, close things down. And so it's kind of inevitable, and it's going to happen at the airport. Typically, we would provide notification to all of the ground transportation providers. However, since the pandemic, during the pandemic, and for the last couple of years, we've had major reorganizations, and the roadway management is no longer a part of our team with ground transportation, landside operations. It is now in another department. As I looked through, I didn't see any construction notification about this. However, when I first got a notice from Mark, I did go over and look, took some pictures, asked some questions, and got the information. So in the future, the individual who does have management over this area or anything with the roadways, they will notify us. That was just an oversight. And when we get the notification, we automatically send it out to all of the ground transportation providers so that they are aware. And it's not so much a matter of bringing it to a committee for discussion and approval or decisions. but this is construction that occurs at the airport.
So, so this is news to me that this is temporary. This is the first I'm hearing of that. Can we request that a sign be put up that says this route temporarily closed?
Well, there is a lot of cones, a lot of construction. I can provide photos. I mean, it's a construction area and it's.
No, there are cones, but I didn't see
Yeah.
construction.
So there have been large trucks. I have photos of that. The other thing is that route that ground transportation providers, TNCs are taking, that is kind of like an exception to the rule. It is a shortcut through the Delta Cargo area, past the United States Post Office. That is not a route that we would suggest people take. However, it is there and it is a shortcut that they do take. The preference wouldn't be for you to take that route. And we don't recommend
Just
it.
to be clear, are you saying that you're not willing to put up a sign that says it's temporarily closed?
I am going to say this. I will check and see the individuals who are in charge of this particular project. I will ask the question. However, there are cones and there is a lot of things there that let you know this area is closed
Right.
because you cannot get through.
Well, obviously you can't go through. What I'm asking is, can you put up a sign?
I will check with the people who are in charge of this project.
Chad?
Yes, thank you. Two questions, one for April. It sounds like the port's intention is that will be reopened at some time because really you can't get easily to the post office without that. And I do understand that it is not the recommended for the port for TNC drivers or taxi drivers to use that shortcut. I don't think I've used it since I was drag racing down 82nd back in the 80s. But I had a question also adding, this brings up a point that there was a drop in this one where the port should have recommended to tell all of the ground transportation companies, the TNC, in this case, Uber and Lyft, that it was closed. That didn't happen. It brought up another point that I know that the city of Portland notifies us when there is a change, when they're doing that tunnel on Germantown Road. That was closed. My question now is to Anna Ricka Taylor and to Mr. Harris for Uber and Lyft. When the city notifies the TNC companies, I don't personally remember seeing notifications in the app. Can we put in a request that the app let drivers know that there will be road closures when there's something that major? Of course, you can't do it when there's a busted water main that closes a road for 3 days that just happens on a Friday, but when it's pre-known and scheduled that it's going to be closed for a certain period of time, is it possible for drivers to be notified within the app? Thank you.
Mark, did you have a quick response on that?
Yes. So, the Bureau of Transportation has a whole system set up to notify you about just about anything you want to know that's happening with transportation. So what I'd like to do is invite drivers to sign up for the alerts that they're interested in, because by the time that alert goes out and I get it and notify Elizabeth and Donna, who I work with over at Uber, okay, it could be another day or two before it actually gets out on an app. In fact, it could be a week because I know they get certain information queued up in advance. So it would be quicker if we just invited drivers to sign up for those alerts.
How would we let all the drivers know that they should sign up with the PBOT?
That's
alert?
what I was, that's what I was just raising my hand to ask, is this maybe the TNC companies could send out one of their, the TNC and PBOT could work together to send out a little helpful hint on how to get to that.
Yes, we could certainly work with Uber and Lyft to come up with some language that they both send out. We can also blast it out to the drivers as well, all the drivers that are permitted with us. But yes, we can certainly do that.
Phil, is there anything else in this topic that you'd like to discuss? And is there some kind of rule or recommendation that you think we could investigate at a further meeting?
Just any chance can things like this be brought to our attention, to request our feedback ahead of time on something as major as that?
April?
So aside from Phil's question, our notifications go out to the company owners and managers. And then it is their responsibility to make sure all of their drivers are notified. Again, in a case like this construction is going to occur no matter what. And so we can notify you of it. Not only can we notify you, it is literally written in the contract between the port and the companies that we're contracting with, that they have the knowledge and the facts that we are going to be doing construction. And as long as we provide them with notification, it's going to be done either way.
And there's no time frame, huh?
Well, the update that I have now, that I have received from the person who's managing the roadway, again, just as a reminder, the roadways used to be managed by our department. They are now in another department and being managed by another department. So this was an oversight where we did not get this particular notification to send out to all of the providers. So you would get notification ahead of time that it is going to occur. We at least try to do it 3 days in advance, and make sure it's posted out in the holding area, and then send it via email. But again, our notification as far as electronically goes out to the owners and the managers, and then it's their responsibility.
Okay, so it wouldn't be like when you're doing construction on a bridge and it says it's going to be closed from January of 2020 to March of 23, and it's there for everybody to see.
So there would not be a sign posted. What the owners and managers would receive is a construction notification from our office.
Okay, so can we request, can that be part of what we do as a committee? Can we request that if a road's going to be closed at the airport where thousands and thousands of TNC and taxi drivers are going to be using it, that we're given the same courtesy?
Well, I think what she's saying is we are. She is. She tells, not in this case, but she tells Uber and she tells Lyft.
No, I want to sign up.
So let me, April, let me clarify. So what I heard, April, number one, it's not your department. Number two, you are willing to go back and relay this information to the department, but other than right now saying it's closed April 8th through the 13th, you don't have an update and it was an oversight. So Owen, I'm not sure what else we have to discuss or take or even make a motion on, because there's nothing to act on. It's April has to go back to another department. So I just.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. I don't think unless Phil, unless you'd like to invite a particular resolution or a policy, then we can vote to discuss it at the next meeting.
And Phil, I did hear April, she did hear, the committee has heard that you want to sign, and I'm sure she will relay that information and get back to us.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. Turning it over to you, Owen.
We've got 10 minutes, and Chad, we've got a couple different safety related topics, I think, with you.
Well, yeah. Hi. So I don't know that I can cram this in 10 minutes, but I would like us to continue and move forward and maybe spread out some more time. We did have 20 for driver protections and safety tools for drivers. Just not too long ago, there was another driver shot in Portland. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't remember if he passed away or not.
If I recall, the driver survived, but unfortunately, one of the TNC passengers did not make it.
Right. Yes. So part of these, I'd like to see the Bureau of Transportation put in a maximum seating requirements for Portland, that the front passenger seat be left open. Anecdotal stuff is what I bring a lot of this table, is looking at the internet. Female drivers get assaulted and abused all the time. And if there is one layer that you can put between a driver and some dirtbag who's going to act up, that's safer for the drivers and also safer for the passengers. There are stories of people of color being thrown out of a car for asking for a ride that's too long because of the color of their skin. It's ridiculous. People who get assaulted, passengers get assaulted by crazy drivers. So if we can keep a bit of separation between the passengers and the drivers, I think it increases the driver protections, and it sidewise also increases the passenger protections. I have Lyft had a sneeze guard. I had a sneeze guard in my van for the period of time. People loved it. Drunk people beat on it, which was great because that means they weren't beating on the back of my seats. So I'd like to move these topic submissions forward to get more details. And unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of details on things that we can do, but there does need to be more safety protections for drivers. Things, since it's being recorded, things like having a valid picture and a valid name of riders, which neither app requires you to have your real name or your real photo on the screen. It should match what your credit card, since you have to have a credit card to ride, your face should match your credit card requirements. I don't see why that would be an issue at all, since passengers do get to see my face and my real name in the app. So they're protected so that they know who I am, but I don't know who they are. And I'm letting a stranger into my vehicle. And I'll relinquish the rest of my time so that we don't go over.
Thanks. Anna Diana.
Yeah, okay, what about the case where someone is making a ride arrangement for a relative? As a person with disability, there are many occasions when, say, someone's aunt needs to have the ride, and the person who's making the ride is not the same one who is going to be actually taking the ride. So you need to consider that and possibly have it in the regulations and the profile that this is the person who will be actually riding with you. I know that the drivers have a profile, and part of the reason I signed up for this committee is because I have a friend who is blind, who has a guide dog, who has tried to arrange with a ride with these services. I don't know exactly which one, but the driver gets there, freaks out over the dog, and leaves, and they're late to work. Anyway, so, you know, there are some exceptions to the credit card picture or the passenger's picture meeting the requirement, and possibly I need to look for the user profile that people fill out, and that might be where the improvement needs to be.
Right. Before I get to Rachel, Chad, and Phil, I just wanted to ask if any of the TNC representatives on the call had any information to provide around, particularly, I think, you know, I really agree with Chad around, you know, anonymous profiles, and, you know, I suppose what the reasons are to continue to allow riders with anonymous profiles, and or any other comments that you might have around this issue.
So, I mean, I can't answer why that's allowed. I guess as a writer, I know that I get something that says like show the color to my driver, and I know that that's not a face, so you don't even know, like someone else could have my phone or something. So I understand where you're coming from. I'd have to just check and see, but I know that I don't know how often. I've never had a driver actually asked to look at it, but I always hold it up, say like, I'm Anna. But I can find out more because I recall at one point way back in the day, there was a requirement to have a photo, I thought, but I'll find out more and get back to you.
Thanks.
In the same manner, I will do the same, and we'll follow up with our safety team and make sure that we have the appropriate, but safety is number one concern for drivers and riders, and understand that this is an issue that is very, very relevant, ensuring safety for all parties.
Thank you. We've only got 3 more minutes left. So if we could just have super quick comments from Rachel, Chad, and Phil, and then we can go ahead before we adjourn to take a vote on continuing this discussion.
Okay, super quick. I agree with the safety with the picture. I have had plenty of people who put in there in a note, mark as red note for Lyft. This ride is for my girlfriend, or you know, if there could be a requirement, if this ride is for somebody else, check this. So there's a way to do this, that you can require a photo and also mandate that the passenger mark if the ride is being requested for somebody else, just like they do for car dealerships, stuff like that. So I agree with this. I think this is an important issue.
Thank you. Chad.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I do remember, and I can't remember if it was the Lyft app or the Uber app that did allow passengers to order a ride for somebody else by putting their name in the app. And I think
believe
it's
that's
Lyft.
Uber,
Yeah, that allows you to do that. That's a great thing. And I'm more discussing on you pull up to the curb and V gets in, and that who ordered the ride, the name of the person who ordered the ride is Owen, and V gets in and says, take me where I need to go. And then for Rachel's comments on service animals, that driver should have gotten a lot of trouble, because I know that you are required to take service animals. Yeah. I get those emails from Uber and Lyft all the time. So drivers who do not do that should be reported and get in trouble, because yes, we should be taking service animals. I know that I can opt out of taking regular animals. That's an option with the Uber app, where I can say I don't want to take non-service animals. I just don't want to pick your dog up from the vet. But if you have a service animal, you 100% need to be picking that passenger up. Thank you.
All right. I'm so sorry, Phil. We've got to end right on time, and but I think let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and call a motion to continue this discussion for next meeting in safety tools for drivers and these safety issues. So could I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right. All those against, please raise your hand. All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much, everyone. We had an action-packed meeting today, and thank you to Sally for being a little shorter than your time. Meeting is adjourned. We will see you all in 2 months or sooner.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.